kicking for the like it's 9-3. You see, Rob impact the mic, keeping it real, G. Talk about relationships, money, and health. Dropping knowledge while I'm spitting it, that's a wealth.
Complex conversations, we break it down. Pop culture topics, we hold it down. Dive deep into society's complexities. Educate, entertain, never rest in it. Complex
Context, where the truth unfolds. Analyzing life through stories untold. Rob impact, dropping knowledge every day.
Unpacking life's complexities, one topic at a time. You're listening to Complex Context. Here is your host, Rob Impact.
So glad to see you back. Welcome to Complex Context, episode 26. I am Rob Impact, your host, and I'm glad to have you with me for a new episode where we get to talk about all of life's complexities, here, there, and everywhere, the small stuff, the big stuff. How are you doing? I hope your week has been well, because my week has been crazy busy, but really, really cool. And we get this time together where we get to kind of vent and give each other a shoulder to lean on for all the good stuff, whether it be the positive side, some of the obstacles that we face. But our subject matter is usually pretty relatable to all listeners. So that's what we're about. If you're new here, welcome. We're glad that you're taking the time to check us out. And if you're a repeat listener, thank you so much for coming back. We really appreciate it. I want to start off by sending my sincerest love, appreciation, and prayers to those in Florida who were affected by Hurricane Milton in the United States recently. It was a very severe hurricane, and there were tornadoes that preceded the eye of the hurricane hitting land, and there was a lot of damage done. I don't want to get too much into it because for some folks that may follow the news or those who were affected directly, I'm not going to say anything that you've probably either seen or heard ad nauseum. There's no benefit in that, but I do want to send out my love and appreciation for those who, even if you don't live there, if you know somebody that lived in the affected area, I want to send those good vibes and that love out to you. And of course, to the people directly, please let us know if there's any message or any kind of intent coming out of this that you would like put on this show that we could spread on your behalf. We would be happy to do so. I would like to send my love to all the listeners who participated and listened to Complex Context over the past week. We really appreciate it. We're global, baby, and we got here, there, and everywhere in terms of our listenership, so much love going out, of course, to Massachusetts and Rhode Island. We are broadcasting from Massachusetts, so we're not too far off from Boston proper, and we are very blessed to be in this area and have our podcast, our complex crew all come together and have this location be the home base. So, of course, we have a good amount of New England that listens to us. Shout out also going out to those folks in Florida, whether it was in the affected area of Hurricane Milton or otherwise. We did have folks in Florida listening, and with everything going on, that really means a lot. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen. Also, much love going out to the folks in Georgia who decided to check us out and listen to a couple of new episodes, so thank you so much. Also, on the international side, we're sending our sincerest appreciation to the folks over in India. Thank you so much. And also to the folks over in Russia, we appreciate your time and your listenership. We are everywhere. And we'll give the information later on as far as what platforms we're on, the easiest way to check us out on a regular basis, and all that. But right now, let's get into some topics, all right? Much of the United States had the opportunity to view the Northern Lights last week, and it really was a case of a lot of beauty, a lot of nature's wonder coming to the visual of most people in the United States. At least I believe the upper 2/3 of the United States, if I remember the map that I saw correctly. And it was cool, but by day 2 afterwards, holy, photos everywhere. It was like every second or third person that you knew was posting their photos of the Northern Lights, and rightly so, because it was so visible to the point that the clarity is something that you hardly would get in this country in terms of the contiguous 48 states. So I absolutely get that it was a big deal, and I'm glad that so many people were able to have that opportunity, whether solo or with family, for viewing such an incredible happening. It's a real treat for a lot of the folks that had that opportunity. But as I said, wow, the photos were just all over the place. It got to the point where after maybe the 8th photo, I was like, yeah, I kind of see it's still beautiful, but your photo doesn't look terribly different from the prior 7 photos that I just looked at. So it's difficult in this world of wanting to show each other what our experience was and something beautiful that we as an individual might see. If you have the possibility of other folks seeing the same thing, you have to know folks en masse are going to post pretty much the same visual subject matter. So maybe 1 photo, maybe 2 at most if you get some really good ones. But there were folks that were posting like these gigantic photo albums worth, and I can really appreciate the enthusiasm and your appreciation for being able to see that. But wow, was it everywhere. I felt like, you know what, it didn't matter the little bit that we got to see, and we did get to see a tiny bit of kind of a reddish purple in the sky from where we're at. But everybody was just, crazy about it. It was almost like the solar eclipse that happened earlier this year in the United States, where everybody just went gaga over it. And you had to have the glasses passed out, and everybody had to go outside and look at it with the glasses. And you had some people not following instructions that tried to take pictures of it. And it's like, no, that's a great way to cook your lens, and your camera's never going to work right after that. But yeah, it was really cool. The Northern Lights, absolutely beautiful. Those types of colors, it's like a box of Crayola that just came to life. But wow, those pictures, man, I'm telling you, they were all over social media, and just you couldn't really, after a while, appreciate maybe the, like I said, the 7th, 8th picture set that you're seeing, because it's like, yeah, it's hard to differentiate at that point what makes somebody's pictures that much more enticing or beautiful than other people. It's a good problem to have, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, maybe we should all do the 1 photo thing and just make it that much more special for everybody. What do you think the next big thing is that we're going to see all together as far as nature? I don't know. I feel like there's some kind of space-related thing that we're overdue for. I don't know, maybe a special moon, something like that. Whatever it is, I know it's not going to be as pretty as the Northern Lights were. We have a holiday that is Columbus Day. And many people have the day off. Not all people, though. There are still very essential folks who are continuing to serve our population during that day. But as a little bit of history, let's take a look at Columbus Day and a recent change, which really is a little bit confusing, but not really. It's a change that's trying to provide some clarity and a little bit of updating. So Columbus Day, it was first recorded as a celebration on October 12th of 1792, and it was organized by the Society of St. Tammany, also known as the Columbian Order. which was to commemorate the 300th anniversary of Christopher Columbus's landing. The 400th anniversary of the event inspired the first official Columbus Day holiday in the United States. President Benjamin Harrison, there's a name I haven't heard much of, issued a proclamation in 1892, quote, recommending to the people the observance in all their localities of the 400th anniversary of the discovery of America, end quote, and describing Columbus as, quote, the pioneer of progress and enlightenment, end quote. In 2019, the D.C. Council voted to rename this to Indigenous Peoples Day via an emergency declaration in order to honor Indigenous people and their contributions. In 2021, President Joe Biden made the holiday official. Now, this is very odd because many folks are describing Indigenous Peoples Day as the new Columbus Day, so to speak. But in actuality, it is, from what I have researched and can tell, two separate holidays. Now, I'm not going to say separate holidays as in somebody would get two holiday pays. No, they just happen to fall on the same day. But the whole concept behind this has to do with the colonialism and what came out of Columbus's discovery and treatment of the folks who were on the mainland. And unfortunately, there were all kinds of not so good things. I don't want to get too far into the weeds as far as being descriptive because I'd like to keep it friendly for all listeners. But the treatment of those native to the land wasn't that great. And the efforts within the past, let's say, 5 years, 6 years especially, is to ensure that focus is on those who were already on the mainland at the time of Columbus's discovering of America. So, and it's a general celebration of those who have really been the bread and butter of what the United States is, a melting pot of all kinds of people from across all lands. So, Indigenous Peoples Day, it's kind of technically a separate holiday that also falls on what is known as Columbus Day. There's a little bit of interesting information, and I get it. We want to focus on the right thing, right? We want to focus on the people who have been here and the people who have come from all different walks of life globally to make America what it is. But let's look at what we're looking at and call it for what it is that we can't ignore the fact that Columbus Day was made a holiday and has been a national celebration for so long, hundreds and hundreds of years. So we shouldn't look to erase that. That is part of the history of America. I think what we should do as a whole is make sure going forward that we have more focus on the Indigenous people's holiday and not try to eliminate or not pretend like Columbus Day isn't or never was a thing. It is, and that's okay. And I think part of acknowledging its existence and the history of it is also acknowledging that there are efforts to be better folks as a whole and put focus on an area that is more easily celebrated and worthwhile, at least according to today's societal opinion. So let's not shy away from that. Let's try and make sure that we make room for our past as well as our present. And for that, I wish you a happy Columbus Day and, more importantly, a happy Indigenous Peoples Day. Now let's go from one very good educational historic lesson to another. Let's go to lessons from the Urban Dictionary.
Yo, it's time for the lessons. Urban words and the essence. Straight from the streets, no guessing. We'll break it down, no stressing. Stacks on stacks and drip too. What's the lingo? Yeah, what's new? For frontin' and keeping it true, we got the vocab for you. Urban Dictionary style. Learning the words makes us smile.
Lessons from the Urban Dictionary is where we learn a word or phrase, either past or present, which has been used enough to make its way into the Urban Dictionary. We use a random letter generator to choose a letter, and this episode's letter is the letter T. And then we take that letter and randomly select a word or a phrase that starts with that letter. The phrase that we came across randomly today using the letter T is thoughtbot. THOUGHTBOT. Two separate words. Thoughtbot. What is a thoughtbot? Well, I'm glad you asked. That's what I'm here for, right? I'm trying to educate and keep you informed and keep me informed too. So a thoughtbot is a person who miscellaneously asks for someone else's thoughts on a particular subject, usually to fill an uncomfortable silence or to hide the fact that the person knows very little about the subject. Your example, person 1. We can't get this done by tomorrow's deadline. Person 2. It's really important that we do, though. Thoughts? Person 1. Being a thoughtbot doesn't get this project done, pal. I like that, thoughtbot. Boy, have I come across a handful of thoughtbots in my day. And my day wasn't that long ago. Holy cow. I have certainly encountered many people that instead of contributing nothing, they feel as though they need to contribute some type of almost a transitional statement or a question, and it usually ends up with, what's your thoughts on it? When more often than not, it really doesn't matter what my thought is. I know you're asking because you don't know yourself. So, a thought bot, not exactly my cup of tea in terms of the quality of a person. It takes all kinds to make the world go round, and we know plenty of thought bots. I'm sure of that. As we continue to approach the fall season, I, as well as my daughter, went to a local facility today to have our flu shot administered. And some folks are going to go, oh, you always hear about it. I don't believe in that. And that's okay. You don't have to. But it is important to make sure that in terms of our health and well-being and just the maintenance of our body as temperatures change, overall external conditions change, it's just so important to look after ourselves. And having a flu shot has certainly helped in that aspect. I can speak to that because for quite a long period of time, from I want to say my early 20s and onward, I did not get a flu shot. And I was pretty good for quite a long time. So I said, it's all hype, nothing to it. And then at a certain point in, I want to say my mid-30s, I got the flu. And I didn't have a shot. So you get the flu, you're not vaccinated. Well, what happened? How bad could it be, right? I'll tell you, it was terrible. I remember at probably the second day, like really, really bad, going, I don't know if I can take it anymore. And I'm looking up, I'm like, to the big man upstairs going, I don't know if you can have some kind of long-term effect from having the flu in terms of other issues that will pop up, but everything was just so severe in nature. And I have said, literally, and will continue to, I would never wish it upon my worst enemy. I wouldn't. That would just be mean. It was such a memorable experience for entirely the wrong reasons. And I would hate to know that people that I care about, people that I love, people that really just I want them to be able to have a quality of a day-to-day without getting that far down and out. Make the consideration, and obviously it's not going to be for everybody. Folks have the right to their particular freedoms and their particular beliefs as far as getting that. But if it doesn't interfere in that, I would certainly make the plea to you to make that recommendation. Flu vaccinations have been really, really important ever since that time to me because I had to learn the hard way. And after doing that, yes, I did subsequently get the flu, but I was vaccinated. And to see it on both sides, I can tell you it was a night and day experience. Now, I'm not saying I was dancing around, singing songs, having a good old time, but I was a lot more mobile and a lot more human feeling, if you will, than when I didn't have it. So there is a benefit. Of course, it's not meant to completely prevent you from potentially getting the flu. But again, from my experience, I can tell you, it will make an incredible difference in the event that you still get the flu anyways. And it won't make you down and out to the point that you're questioning, am I going to live? Am I going to make it through? I can't stand it. Every spot from the top and the bottom and all of that, it's just all sore and I'm completely dehydrated. It's terrible. Yeah, my arm is a little sore. What else is new? Small price to pay to know that we can maintain a decent immune system as we continue to approach these temperatures and the overall conditions that we know are going to lead to a cold and kind of miserable winter as it happens, at least here in New England in the United States. So my recommendation, make that consideration. If it doesn't interfere with your lifestyle or your personal beliefs, yeah, take that time. Make sure you schedule your flu vaccination because I would hate to know that you, as part of my complex crew, has to go through what I know I went through before. Now, if you don't mind, I would like to go from that set of information, that advice, if you will, to something a little bit on the flip side. What might that be? Some ridiculous life advice.
Ridiculous life advice.
The best kind of footwear for thieves would be sneakers.
Ridiculous life advice.
Ah, yes, ridiculous life advice. My personal favorite segment strikes once again here on Complex Context. I enjoy that a lot more than what I should. I say that all the time, but it's really true. I want to let you know if you have any ideas for topics that you would like discussed, any kind of message or intent on improving something that you would like spread out to our complex crew, maybe some feedback about an episode, whether it be this one or a past episode in the archive, or you would like to send a shout out and just some general good vibes to people who might be listening, you can do all of that. Feel free to contact us. You can email us at complexcontextshow@yahoo.com. We're also on X. Our username is @ComplexContext1. And we're also on Facebook. You could get to us at facebook.com/ComplexContext1. We would love that feedback. Also, don't forget to subscribe, leave a rating on your preferred favorite podcast platform. And you might be going, Rob, I don't know exactly, aside from what I'm listening on right now, where else you guys are. I have friends that have different phones, different music preferences. What's going on? It's super easy. You don't even have to worry about it. First of all, our official homepage, brought to you by the folks who distribute this show, Podbean. You can find us at complexcontext.podbean.com. And there it will link you to all of the 11 different platforms that we are on. We're on all the big boys, some of the small ones, and everything in between. We are also available on YouTube, so you can listen to our show directly on YouTube with our logo on your screen. We're happy about that. So you can find all of that information at complexcontext.podbean.com. Don't hesitate, reach out, let us know you're listening. We would love to give some recognition on the air. I mentioned earlier about getting into cooler conditions, at least here in the New England area of the United States. And with that, there are some traditions or some personal preferences that come along with that. And it's pretty cool. For many people, you might have an increase in hot chocolate consumption. That's not a bad thing. It's a nice occasional treat. I personally, as a true Massachusettsan, still have iced coffee every single morning. It doesn't matter. Even in the dead of winter, I still need iced coffee. I'm not too sure why that is. I think there is some local/genetic aspect to that. I don't know. That's my guess. It's also time for us to get our blankets out, get them cleaned and nice and fluffy. If you're like me with animals, you're probably going to see your dogs or maybe your cat get on your lap and try and take up most of the blanket that you're trying to be comfortable with. That's okay. You can share. Just try and make them understand it is sharing. It's not all for them. It's also a great time for me to get out the electric kettle and brew some really good cups of tea. I enjoy a good basic black tea. I did have a few different places that offered some really good organic loose leaf tea, but unfortunately, as time has continued on, business was not always good to the places that I would frequent for that type of product. Pandemic, of course, was a huge contributor. So I don't really have a good organic loose leaf place for tea. I just do bagged, and I have two particular brands. So I'm all set with that. But if anybody knows a good organic, especially if there's organic peppermint tea, that could be shipped at minimum to Massachusetts, if not in the state, please reach out to me, complexcontextshow@yahoo.com, or hit us up on Facebook or X at complexcontext1. I need that. I'm fiending for a good organic peppermint loose leaf. I haven't had one in years. So please send your recommendations. We also tend to put on a little extra weight because we're inside more, and we might not have a job or responsibilities that keep us as physically active with necessity as it might during the warmer seasons. So, unfortunately, a lot of us, we succumb to the calories, the extra calories that we don't need, but there can be some really good food. One thing that I like, homemade applesauce. Oh man, there was a recipe that my mother used to make, homemade applesauce like I just wouldn't believe, and it was nice and hot and fresh, just the right amount of cinnamon. It was so good, and thank goodness my wife has taken over making homemade applesauce with a recipe that, if it doesn't completely mimic what my mother's used to be, it's damn close. I remember the first time she tried it, I thought I was almost going to cry. It felt like eating my mother's homemade applesauce. So that's a nice treat to have. And of course, it goes well with delicious meals like for Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever holiday around that time of year that you'd like to celebrate. Finally, as a New Englander, of course, hoodies. You gotta have it. Hooded sweatshirts for those who do not have that kind of lingo down. I don't think it's that drastic, but you know there's probably going to be some people that go, I don't know what a hoodie is. A hooded sweatshirt. And the zip kind. I love the zip kind. I don't like to always feel like I'm putting all of them completely over my head and not have a way to get out. Sometimes I feel like a sardine, man. I don't know, but that's my preference. So as I'm talking to you, I have a zip hoodie on right now, and I'm about ready to gather up the family after the show and go to our backyard and have a nice fire in the fire pit. That is a really, really good thing to do during this time of year. If you happen to have either personally or you know somebody who has a fire pit and you can go over to their house and just sit in the cool air and have that fire just really come up. It's a good feeling. So if I have a hope in heck of making sure that the family is ready and gathered after this show, I got to get going. It's been my pleasure, as always, to have you here with me, and I look forward to it again. Don't hesitate to send your emails or send your messages, subscribe, spread the love, and let's have a great upcoming week together. Happy Columbus Day to some, and definitely happy Indigenous Peoples Day to all for folks here in the United States. My name is Rob Impact. Do what you do it often, do it well, just don't do anything I wouldn't do, and you'll be doing all right. Take care of yourself, have a great week ahead, I'll catch up with you.
Visit the show's website at complexcontext.podbean.com. Complex Context is a Mass Ed Media production